Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're fit and well. Ken, listen, I feel your pain. Good morning, he says, and then he's got lots of sun and he's got fire. It is so hot in here. I've actually got a fan right by my, or actually on my desk. But if I play it, you'll be able to hear it. And I am absolutely sweating right now. Dan saying very bad coverage here. I'll do my best to be brief and shout a bit. Mark Whiting is here as well. Good morning, Mark. And Dan saying the sun is shining. Anybody else missing autumn? Anybody else longing for getting up in the morning thinking, thank God for that, I'm not on fire? Good morning to Gary Muirhead. Good morning, guys. And what did I say yesterday? Messi is the godfather. You did say that, funnily enough. And yes, he most certainly is the godfather. Some question marks over the Egypt-Argentina result, though, if you don't mind me saying. And I'm not saying that out of any anti-Messi spite, but there was some things. There were some things. I mean, I think part of it is down to the fact that Donald Trump has stuck his greasy paw into the whole World Cup, and it's now got me looking at things in a completely different way. Whereas I was before, I was quite happy to accept the results. Now I'm looking at thinking, does kind of serve the World Cup well if Argentina go forward to the next round, doesn't it? Call me cynical if you will. Mind you, the seat might be small in a Kubota, but the air conditioning is lovely. Well, funnily enough, speaking of Kubota, today is the first of our semi-finals in the Mini Excavator World Cup, and Kubota are in it. I probably would have predicted, no, not probably, I could have predicted the fact that Kubota would make it all this way. One of the premium brands in the mini excavator market. So no great surprise that they are in the final, or the semi-final at least. We don't know if they're in the final yet. So I do need to put the banner up, which says that. There you are. Today's vote comes down to these two to decide who goes to the final. Are you in Camp Kubota or are you in Camp Devellon? That is the question of the day. Do you remember when we used to have a question of the day? What was that all about? That seems like a lifetime ago. So yes, Mini Excavator World Cup. It will be decided. Let me think. Today's Wednesday. Decided Friday. We will find out who the ultimate World Cup champion in the Mini Excavator market is on Friday of this week, assuming we can decide amongst ourselves who goes forward to the final today. Top of the screen, you can see what the vote is. It is basically Kubota going head-to-head with Devellon. So let us have your thoughts. Jim Turner has just walked through the door and has said, good morning, peeps. He's also voted in the Mini Excavator World Cup. Thank you very much indeed for that, Jim. Looking forward to announcing the result of that a bit later on. Couple of weeks ago, you might remember, I was talking about the UK house builder Vistry and about how all may not be well there. They've insisted on discounts from their supply chain. They've voluntary redundancies they were looking for, and also they've slashed the cost of some of their homes basically to improve their cash flow. They've announced today that they are on the verge of announcing a £30 million pre-tax loss. Hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. Ken Hatcher said, I don't like the seat, but it's a quality machine. I agree. I always say if I'm spending my own money on an excavator, a full-size excavator, ultimately I think it would probably be a toss-up for me personally between Liebherr and Volvo. Mini excavator-wise, I think it would be a toss-up between Kubota and Takeuchi. And the fact that I worked for Kubota for quite some years, yeah, I'd kind of be erring that way. But thankfully, I'm not voting today, so you keep those votes coming. Stefan Edwards has just joined us all the way from probably the sunny Netherlands. How is the weather in the Netherlands this morning? And speaking of morning, I've got a thing to share with you at the end of this show today, which might dispel any kind of preconceived misconceptions that you had about when accidents happen. I must admit, when I started digging on it, took me completely by surprise. I'll get to that at the end. So should we kick off? I think we probably should. Let me roll the intro and get today's show on the road. It is Wednesday, the 8th of July, and boy, phew, what a scorcher. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, the authentic voice of the global demolition industry. I'm just going to drop into conversation here. I had reason, I don't often have reason, but I had reason to pop over to have a quick look at the Worthing Advertiser last night. Haven't updated their website in a month. Finger on the pulse of the industry. That's what I'm saying. In today's show, XCMG masters a massive mine. Behind the scenes at Volvo's compact excavator factory, bridge removal Mammoet-style, and a Bergmann dumper that redefines the term all-terrain. And in today's episode of Mark's Morning Monologue, I've called it a dangerous misconception, and it basically explains why mid-morning is the deadliest time on site. Might come as a bit of a surprise, but stick around and I will explain more. Stefan Edwards has got 22 degrees and overcast. Send some this way, would you? It's about 97,000 degrees here today, and it's about to get warmer. It's warm. People, let's crack on with the show. Let's start with a bit of Caterpillar, shall we? And then we're going mining. So you know how, in the modern world here in the UK, and certainly in the Netherlands as well, we're very keen on renewable power. We want power from the wind and from the sun, from our rivers and our seas and stuff like that, because we know that coal is dirty and horrible and a blight on humanity. Apparently that memo didn't make it all the way to China. Just had another vote in on our Mini Excavator World Cup, which looks like this today. It is Kubota versus Demolition. This is our first of two semi-finals. It's pitting Kubota against Demolition. Tomorrow, I think, who is it tomorrow? It is JCB versus Komatsu. So we're deciding basically who goes forward to the final today. And we've already had quite a few votes, all in favour of one particular brand. I won't reveal who it is, but it's currently a bit of a whitewash. So if anybody would like to throw their hat into the ring, so to speak, please do so, or forever hold your peace. We're going to be right back after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
So we're going off to have a look behind the scenes now at the factory where they build Volvo's compact excavators. Unfortunately, Volvo were knocked out one of the early rounds of our Mini Excavator World Cup, so the machines you're about to see being built didn't make it into our grand final, or didn't even make it to the semi-final. But this is the factory. Here we go.
I'm very excited to show you around the Volvo construction equipment facility here in Belay, France. This is where we bring life to our Volvo compact excavators under 6 ton. This is where everything begins, our warehouse. We use both high-tech robotic welders as well as highly skilled operators. On its way to the painting shop, every component is going to go through one of our machining centers to get to the perfect shape down to 1/100th of a millimeter precision. Here you can see components hanging on hooks ready for painting. Along the process, they're going to go through thorough washing, drying, priming, coating, and hardening, all to make sure that they are fully prepped before moving on to the assembly line. Every single product we manufacture here goes down the same line, whether it's diesel or electric, small or large. The line itself has 7 working stations supported by sub-assembly lines. Step by step, every component is added to the machine, from frames to engine, hydraulics, cab. This is where we store and get our machines ready for their new homes, and then notify our carriers so they can pick them up in batches for delivery. I hope you enjoyed this little journey as much as I enjoyed showing you around. Goodbye.
Very quickly, Ken Hatcher just said Volvo paint is good. I agree. Most things about Volvo are good. Just very quickly, that factory is based in Belley in France. Eagle-eyed amongst you, or those that have been around for a certain amount of time, will know that that used to be the Pell Job factory. Obviously, Volvo acquired Pell Job, got into the mini excavator market, and they've retained the factory in the same place in France. So there you are. Bit of a history lesson for you. The votes are still coming in on our Mini Excavator World Cup. While we're doing that, I'm going to quickly address this one with Jim. Nothing wrong with coal, it's plant food. Whether there's something wrong with coal or not is frankly, whoever decided that burning dead dinosaurs was a great idea? Yeah, weird one. Peter McKenna, back in our midst. Good morning, Peter. Haven't seen you for a while. Good morning, all. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on this joyous, sweltering hot day. We're going bridge lifting in just a moment, and no great surprise, we're doing it with Mammoet after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
When a bridge reaches the end of its natural working life, you've kind of got two options. You can either bust it out or blow it up, or you can lift it out. This lot chose to lift it out, and not surprisingly, in order to do so, they called Mammoet.
I've been lucky enough in my career to have worked on just a handful of once-in-a-lifetime projects, and this was definitely one of them.
The 1959 Harbor Bridge was built to replace a lift bridge that had congested ship channel traffic and vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic, and it was the first pre-stressed steel truss bridge of its kind. And then as the years passed, it exceeded its lifespan, it surpassed the expectations of its lifespan, and TxDOT decided that they needed to build a newer bridge with more safety features to accommodate regional traffic and to provide additional navigational clearance for the waterway beneath.
We had a nearly 400-foot main span crossing the ship channel, and we had to get that down in 36-hour period. This port, in terms of freight in and out, is the third largest port in the U.S. Mammoet came to the job site in person, met with us, talked through the project. Success for us meant safety, first of all, and next was that we provide orderly removal for the port.
Removing the bridge in one piece offers clear advantages. Environmentally, it minimizes the risk of debris falling into the water. And from a safety standpoint of view, it minimizes the risk of accidents when comparing to cutting.
It was clear to me that Mammoet was the right company for this job.
Once we aligned with the plan, we had to coordinate with the National Weather Association, and then from there we coordinated with these different agencies from the stakeholders like the Museum of Science and History, the Texas State Aquarium, assisted with traffic control during the operations. As this was such a historic activity, we had coordinated with local first responders, Corpus Christi Police Department, and the Corpus Christi Fire Department.
As you can see in the background, we have the bridge behind me. We have 4 900-ton strand jacks on the 4 corners. Each strand jack has a capacity of 900 tons. We have the full weight of the bridge on the strand jacks. It's around 2,227 metric tons.
We set up Mammoet's equipment, we do our severing cuts on the main span, and we do the lowering process to a barge that was below.
Initially, we will receive the bridge on the grillage beams. We estimate that the lowering will take anywhere from 8 to 10 hours. Once we're 1 foot above the grillage beams, then we deem it safe for our guys to get back on board the deck, and we'll do some final adjustment of the barge to align with the bridge. The client will be helping us out with the survey points on that one. We estimate that there probably be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours of lashing. Once the strand jacks are released and the bridge is secured to the deck, we will then release the 8th mooring point that you see right there. That will take us about 3 hours to do. After that, we will sail on to a designated offloading facility about 6 nautical miles inward of this channel here.
The team effort was fantastic with TxDOT and Mammoet and our company, Flatiron Legatos. Everyone worked well together. There was a lot of reviews, a lot of engineering to be reviewed and managed, and with that partnership was something that really helped the project to succeed.
Dan is struggling today, cheesed off now, keeps cutting off. I'm sending positive thoughts. Positive thoughts. Dan has also said, who won the mini excavator World Cup yesterday? Komatsu emerged victorious yesterday. That's who won yesterday. Let's have a look. Gary, I made a messy yesterday. I spilt my lasagna all over the floor. If you were watching earlier, you'd know. Dan saying, wow, that's some move. And then Jim Turner going back on coal. Dan's quite smarter than shipping pelleted trees across an ocean to burn instead. Ton for ton, coal is so much more efficient. But home mined coal doesn't let enough people get their greedy fingers in the pie. That's why our various fuels have all become imported. That's how the easy money and government control is achieved. That comes to you direct from Jim Turner, who's probably sat there with a hat made of tinfoil as we speak. Sorry, Jim. We've got one final film for you, which looks lovely, I have to say. And I chose the music. So back after this with a bit of sight dumper action. I've always thought that operating a sight dumper would be quite dull after a while. To and fro, and to and fro. Unless, of course, the site looks like this. Dan, I'm with you. Still a bit tedious, but loved it on the ADT. Couldn't do it as a one-off job, he says. I'm going to go back a little bit. Andy Thornton, back after a few... I haven't seen him for a few days, but he's back in our midst, which is great news. Thank you very much indeed, Andy. Jim Turner, too hot for the tinfoil hat today. Never worked. Does it keep the heat out or does it keep the heat in? Does it do both? I've never been entirely sure. Peter McKenna, obviously Peter's... I was going to call him a fair weather friend. That was completely unfair. Haven't seen Peter for a while. You'll be blissfully unaware, Peter. We've been running basically ever since the World Cup started, the Football World Cup started, we've been running our own, a mini excavator World Cup. So every day we've pitted one brand against another. We've gradually whittled it down and whittled it down. We're down to the final four. We're about to be down to the final three because I'm going to tell you who has won this one in just a moment. But let me finish off here. Dan has just said here's a question, but he hasn't done the question yet. So let me take that off the screen. Let me put on the screen the poll, and I can stop it, and we will find out who is going through to the final. Will it be Kubota or will it be De Vallon? I already know the answer because I've seen the answers coming in, but let me stop it and tell you who has won. There you are. It is a 63% in favour of Kubota. Somewhat predictably, I would say, or certainly in my predictions, Kubota are in the mini excavator world final and De Vallon fell at the last, which is not a bad performance, I would say. Not a bad performance. And particularly bearing in mind that Kubota just... well, up until fairly recently, just do minis, whereas De Vallon is a sort of a multi excavators, dump trucks, and all the other things. So they've done very, very well. But yeah, De Vallon are out. Kubota in the final. Tomorrow's final, or tomorrow's semi-final rather, will be JCB versus Kubota. JCB versus Kubota. So if you're feeling patriotic and British, please vote JCB. If you're feeling a little more warm to the Japanese, then go Kubota. Just vote with your heart, I would say, and your head as well. That would be good. Let's have a look. Gary Muirhead says, we have some ADT drivers on this site that must take their brains out in the morning and put them in again at night. Hold that thought about the morning. Hold that thing that you just said about the morning, hold it for another couple of minutes because it's not just them. Sorry, I haven't been around. Daughter got married on Sunday. There was a lot of prep and now getting back to normal, whatever that means. Well, congratulations to your daughter. Congratulations to you. Father of the bride speech. Did you record it? Can we hear it? Was it good? Did you get laughs? Love to know. Dan says, surely that's not productive. And if a large site, tedious on large sites, totally agree. Peter McKenna says, normal? I don't think anyone is normal. Based on my experience, I'm inclined to agree. Well done, Peter, on his app. I looked at it last night. It's a bloody fantastic thing. Peter, my apologies. I was working furiously yesterday. I've had my WhatsApp on silent because I just didn't need the distractions. I have seen it. I will have a proper look. I want to put it up on a big screen so that I can see it properly. I will take a good look, I promise you. Dan Cullen says, on large sites, the whole road's as wide as the M25. Why are the speed limits of 10 miles an hour? Stop them rolling over, probably. I would imagine. I don't actually know the answer to that, but there you are. That's what we've got. So congratulations to Kubota. They're in the final on Friday, and we find out who joins them in just 24 hours. But that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues, and I hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back immediately after a smidgen of this. You might think that most accidents happen towards the end of the day when everyone is tired. It's a perfectly natural conclusion to reach, surely. You picture the site at 4 PM, the boots are heavy, your back's aching, and the brain is slowly drifting towards a cold pint or the sofa. You assume that's when the guard drops. It makes sense, or at least it seems to. Think again. Our industry loves a comforting assumption, especially when it allows people to stick up a glossy poster about fatigue management and then consider the job done. But the reality on the ground is far more uncomfortable, and it completely upends what common sense tells us. I'll get into it in a second, but this reminds me of the classic statistic about shark attacks. Ask the average person where you're most likely to be bitten by a shark, and they'll probably conjure up images of deep, dark oceans miles from shore. Yet the vast majority of attacks happen in less than 3 feet of water, right next to the beach. Why? Because that's where the people are. And that's where the complacency lives. We wade into the shallows thinking we're perfectly safe, and that's where the teeth find us. On a demolition or construction site, our 3 feet of water is the mid-morning window. The data tells us that the real danger zone is not the exhausted tail end of the shift. It's between 9 and 11 in the morning. That is when the ambulances get called. That's when the lapses happen. Think about how a standard day unfolds. First thing in the morning, there's a natural, almost forced caution. Everyone stands around for the toolbox talk. The site inductions are fresh in your mind. The supervisors are watching. Drivers are doing their walk-around checks, and everything moves with a deliberate, slightly slow momentum. We know we're just waking up, so we pay attention. But by mid-morning, all of that changes. The second cup of tea or coffee has kicked in. The site is firing on all cylinders. The plant's mobilised. The targets are set. And a collective feeling of misplaced immortality settles over the site. You feel sharp. You feel bulletproof. You feel entirely in control. And that is precisely the moment the trap springs. Safety experts talk about something called the fourth hour phenomenon. It's a chillingly consistent metric across decades of workers' compensation data. No matter what time a worker starts their shift, whether it's dawn, midday, or the middle of the night, the risk of a traumatic injury peaks during that fourth hour of work. It's the hour where the planning stops and the pressure to produce takes over. There's an almost eerie rhythm to it, a strange statistical curse that puts me in mind of the music world's infamous 27 Club. For reasons that statisticians and music historians still debate, an astonishing number of the world's most brilliant rock stars died at 27 years of age. Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison from the Doors, Kurt Cobain of Nirvana, Amy Winehouse, all of them gone at 27. There's no logical scientific reason why that specific age should be more lethal than 26 or 28. Yet the cluster remains. It's an inexplicable hotspot of tragedy. And the fourth hour of a work shift is the construction industry's 27 Club. It's a statistical anomaly, the hour where the stars align in the worst possible way. On a site that kicks off at 6 in the morning, that lethal fourth hour lands you right about now. The danger of believing the late day myth is that it breeds a toxic form of indirect complacency. When we constantly tell workers to watch out for afternoon fatigue, we are subtly whispering that they are safe in the morning. We allow a false sense of security to cloak the most dangerous hour. We allow a false sense of security to cloak the most dangerous hours of the working day. A man who believes he's only at risk when he's tired might take shortcuts when he feels wide awake. He might skip the secondary check on a hitch, or he might step into a blind spot of a reversing excavator because he feels alert enough to dodge it if things go wrong. He operates under the delusion that alertness equals safety. But by 10 in the morning, the commercial momentum of the project has taken the wheel. Wagons are backing up to the gate, deliveries are arriving, and the site managers are looking at their watches. The pressure to get the day's momentum tracking forward begins to quietly choke out the caution of the early morning briefing. Everyone is hurrying to hit a natural stopping point before the midday break. We rush to finish that one last cut or to move that one last load. And we do it with a brain that tells us we're too focused to make a mistake. It's a psychological blind spot of massive proportions. We look at the end of the day as the enemy, treating the late afternoon with a degree of healthy respect because we can feel our own exhaustion. We give the dusk its due. But we treat the morning with absolute contempt, swaggering through the high-risk 4th hour as if our morning alertness is armour enough against tons of moving steel and unpredictable structures. If we actually want to change the safety culture on our sites, maybe it's time to stop writing policies for a fantasy world and start addressing the reality of human behaviour. We have to dismantle the comforting lie that a focused worker is a safe worker. The mid-morning spike happens because that's when a site is at its most volatile and the workers are at their most confident. It's a perfect storm of high activity and low suspicion. So the next time you walk onto a site at 10 in the morning and everything looks beautiful, loud and productive, don't let that positive energy fool you. You're swimming in less than 3 feet of water, right where the shore looks close and the danger looks miles away. That's the exact moment to look around and stop. Because if you've been at work for 4 hours, that's when the sharks bite. Yeah. See, and listen, I'm all about monitoring fatigue. I absolutely am. It turns out, statistically speaking, accidents happen 4th hour. So you do your own maths. If you started work at 7, next half an hour, that's when the sharks arrive. Let me go over to chat, see what you're all saying over there. Let's have a look. Laughs and tears, including me, couldn't get the last paragraph out, so I just said, sod it, raise your glasses to the bride and groom. I know that feeling, not with weddings. I was saying to somebody the other day, I've now delivered 5 eulogies and I've written 6. And I've made it through all of the eulogies that I've delivered. Just about. But it was a tight one. It really was. Congratulations, Andy. Chris Ford has just arrived. Dan saying, you missed my earlier comment. I have no blank comments from you at all, Dan. This new system is infallible. Once I've put it up on screen, I can't see it. There you are. Gary Muirhead, are you still scared of Jaws, Mark? Yeah. Yeah, I listened. I realised you're saying that in jest and with your tongue planted firmly in your cheek. Terrified. Many years ago, 1990. This is how long ago it was. I'll tell you what, I'll go back even further. I saw Jaws when I was too young. I think it came out in 1975, and I saw it then. So I'd have been 10. You know, parents probably should have had a bit more control, but I don't think they had a great deal to do with it. I think I bunked into the local cinema, scared the jabbers out of me, did Jaws. Anywho, fast forward to 1981. Me and my best mate took ourselves off on holiday, both of us earning at that point. No, 82 it would have been. Both of us earning. So we took ourselves off to Spain for a couple of weeks of, sun, sea, sand, and other things beginning with the letter S. Got bored one afternoon, and there was a series of boys, not little boys. I'm talking about boys, like boat boys, actually out in the sea. And we said, should we swim out to the first one? And we decided to, so we swam out to the first one. And we were hanging on to it, get our breath back before we swam back again. And there was a chain anchoring it to the seabed. And that chain kind of highlighted just how deep the water was where we were, despite what I was saying about 3 feet of water. And I swam back to shore like I was being pursued by a great white. I was terrified. Fast forward again to 1990. I'm married. We had the first part of our honeymoon up in Oban in Scotland. Then we went off to Barbados. Where was I going with this? I know where I was going with this. Yeah, Barbados. So we've done the things. We've done the beach and helicopter rides and submarine rides. But one of the things that you do in Barbados is you go out on a pirate ship. They've got a masted pirate ship. It's got an engine in it, I think, but they've got a masted pirate ship. And you get to a bit where you're just off a bit of an island, and the sea's lovely and blue, and they start throwing bits of bread into the water to attract the little fish, and then you jump in and you have a bit of a swim, and all is right with the world. because I knew what was coming, I'd actually invested in a snorkel, mask and snorkel. So took those along, jumped off the boat, and I'm swimming around. And just below the surface, there's fish about yay big. Let me do that. There you are. Fish about that big. So I've taken a bit of a breath, and I've gone down, and the fish are like this big. That's fantastic. So I thought, I'll swim down to the bottom of the boat. And I swam down to the bottom of the boat. Well, now the fish are that big. They're proper jobs. But I could see with my mask on that there was probably 40, 50, 60 feet of water between me and the seabed. And my brain literally did the calculations. At 2 inches below the surface, the fish are that big. A foot below the surface, they're that big. 5 foot below the surface, they're that big. I have no intention of sticking around to find out how big they are down there. And once again, I left the sea. So yes, utterly terrified of sharks, even on land. My nephew, he's been living in Australia for a couple of years, came home for his grandmother's funeral the other day, but he's going back in a couple of days' time. And while everyone was, it'd be lovely, look after yourself, take care, hope the flight's okay, I just basically said, don't go in the water. Whatever you do, don't go in the water. One other thing, Jaws, as far as I'm concerned, greatest movie ever. It's a great book as well, but there's another book called Close to Shore. If you get a chance to read Close to Shore, it is the story that basically inspired Jaws back in, I think it was the 20s. There was a series of shark attacks actually inland. It was sort of New Jersey shore. So a shark had basically swum up this channel into basically a pond where children and others were swimming, and it killed 2 or 3 people, and that was what inspired it. And also it also dispels the notion, obviously, the Jaws villain is a great white shark. Great white sharks can't do brackish water. A bull shark, however, can. So chances are the story that inspired Jaws was actually a bull shark, not a great white. I think I've done sharks to death. So there you are. Peter McKenna, going back to talk about speeds on site. Most sites are now, even in road transport at 10 miles an hour, it's a recommendation from the HSE. There you are. The first hour of working is the most likely time for accidents to happen. Well, as I say, it's the morning, but apparently there is a spike of the 4th hour. The 4th hour phenomenon is a real thing. I didn't make it up. I wish I had, because that would make me a genius, but it's a real thing. It's an actual statistical thing, the 4th hour phenomenon. And it doesn't, when I first read it, I was wondering if it was going to be like I don't know, when your caffeine wears off, perhaps, you've woken up, you've had a couple of cups of coffee and you're firing all cylinders, and then you get that low afterwards, and maybe that means you're lapsing. Apparently not, because it happens whether you start morning, midday, at night. Your most dangerous hour is your 4th hour at work. Yeah. Just notice the hat. I'm on the ball, says Gary. Are they not wanting to come back as a show sponsor? We've never had a falling out with Miller. In fact, I've got a huge amount of respect for Jackie and Keith who run the show. The problem is we had a very good relationship with one of their PR people who really bought into the things that we're doing on this show, and then she left. And when she left, her replacement was like, yeah, not really sure I get it. And here we are. Yeah, I saw Miller at Hillhead, had a good chat with them, but yeah, no, the answer is that. Like most car accidents happen within a mile of home. Is that right? I hadn't heard that one before. According to Facebook, it's happy birthday, Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford, if it is your birthday, I do have a thing what I can do. There you are. Chris Ford, if it is your birthday, there you are. Happy birthday. If it's not, but just ignore the confetti that's currently on the screen, because Jim's given me a bum steer on that. Let me go back to here. Chris Ford says there's more 2-legged sharks than there are in this. Ain't that the truth? And why are they all in this industry? Why are they all in this industry? But I do wonder, if you are to take that 4th, I can turn that banner off now, can't I? I don't need that anymore. If you were to take that 4th hour phenomenon seriously, and as I say, there is statistical evidence for it. Would that not be a better time for a reminder rather than arriving? You're raring to go and you do your toolbox talks and your site inductions then. What about delaying it to mid-morning? Everyone stop for a cup of coffee. We all sit around and have a chat, and you then get that. Maybe, I don't know whether it pushes it back. Maybe that just shifts the problem into the afternoon. Not entirely sure. Happy birthday, Mr. Ford. I hope you have a good one. 67 and counting. Chris, I'm catching you up on the rails. Not far behind you at all. And you look damn well on it as well, may I say. I'm guessing. Unfortunately, I've never met Chris. I will do one of these days, I promise. But yeah, congratulations, Chris. Many happy returns. But I also wonder, going back to this fourth hour phenomenon, we how we talk about predominantly on railways and stuff, railways on roads, but we talk about tiredness kills. And it does, particularly if you're driving along the road and you're half asleep. I'm sure that tiredness does kill. And we've got in some of our construction equipment, and certainly in our mining equipment, we've now got fatigue monitoring systems and all the good stuff that goes with that. Caterpillar are right at the forefront of that, fatigue monitoring. And yet, they're not actually addressing the main spike of accidents, which is generally not fatigue. It's kind of mid-morning complacency. And I wonder if it is that. You arrive, you've had your toolbox talk, your induction, you've put on your hard hat, which is a reminder as well as a protection. You put on your high vis, another reminder. You got your boots on, another reminder. All of that is reinforcing the safety message. But 2, 3, and then ultimately 4 hours later, all of that has kind of been pushed into the background. And maybe now your focus isn't on hard hat safety, high vis safety, boot safety. It's get the job done, get the job done, get the job done, get the job done so that I can go and have a cup of coffee, get the job done so I can grab a sandwich, get the job done so I can go and have a bite to eat. I wonder if it's that. Wearables would be the best way of assessing this interesting information. I agree. I think we're long overdue. I don't know if anybody else remembers this, but this would have been back before the Breakfast Show became the Breakfast Show. This was when we were doing morning shows, but we were doing them a bit sporadically, and sometimes they'd be 10 minutes, sometimes they'd be 20. But we did a show with a company, and it's that long ago, I can't even remember the name of the company. It was an American company who were doing wearables to monitor for things like heat exhaustion, heart rate, and pretty much what one of these will do for you. Why isn't that working? There we are. It's updated. So pretty much what a smartwatch will do, it monitors all your key vitals. And we were talking to them, it must be, well, it's more than 6 years ago now, because this has been going for that long. And I do remember thinking, surely that is the way forward. We have wearables now for hand-arm vibration monitoring, but what about everything else, all the other vital signs that we could and should be monitoring? And I know there will be some that are, Big Brother watching and monitoring my bodily functions and stuff like that. And I take that, but what if monitoring those bodily functions saved your life or the life of someone else? What if that was the case? All of a sudden, I think this notion of, the prying of technology becomes less and less relevant. Gary Muirhead says pension age, Chris. Yeah, absolutely. Been on the government pay list for a year now. It's just about covers the electric bill and the council tax. Yeah, it doesn't quite cut it, does it? Wearable hat monitors seem to be the way forward. Watch data seems very flawed. I'm a huge advocate for the Apple Watch. Love mine to death, really do. And listen, I'm only 61, not as old as Chris. But I'm conscious, I am conscious of, possibility of heart attack. I'm in the right area, but also falls. I've never had a fall. I've fallen over as a kid, sure enough, but I've never had a fall. But that monitors for falls. So, if I do miss me stepping or miss me footing and hit the ground, that will notify somebody. I'm not expecting that to happen anytime soon, but I quite like the reassurance that it would notify somebody and I wouldn't just be left there. Speaking of which, just on that very subject, he's not my son-in-law, he's my daughter's boyfriend. Got a whack on the head the other day. He's a builder, a jobbing builder around, and he got a whack on the head, knocked him out, spark out cold. Thankfully, he was working with somebody, but it reminds me that the mate that I went on a holiday with, where we were afraid of sharks, he had the same thing. He was another local builder, and a piece of timber fell off a roof, slid down the roof, whacked him on the head, knocked him out cold, and he was on the site on his own. And I mean, sadly, he's no longer with us. But I remember saying, how long were you out cold? And he said, it could have been 10 minutes. It could have been 2 hours. I've no idea. Literally no idea. Just out cold. And he could have died. And no one would have known. We wouldn't have even known where he was. Apple Watches, people. There are other brands available, but I'm a personal fan of the Apple one. Construction. Says Peter McKenna. A study of over 12,000 workers' compensation claims in Oregon found injury frequency was bimodal, peaking in the 4th hour of a shift and again in the 8th. So there is still something to be said for the afternoon fatigue and the afternoon lull, but the 4th hour, who is talking about the 4th hour? I'm drawn to numbers. I have quite a good memory for numbers. And that as a statistic, that 4th hour, that is something that I will regurgitate basically until I turn my toes up, because it's stuck in there. Another one that stuck with me recently was this notion that 99% of the UK construction industry are SMEs and micro businesses. No forum, no voice, no representation with government, and all those kind of things. But 99%, and again, it's one of those figures that's lodged in my brain. We, I are the 99%, and yet we are doing the bidding of the 1%. Seems a bit skewed, if you ask me. Gary Muirhead says, you'll probably be like myself, Chris. We will never retire. You'll find us behind the levers. Yeah. Chris Full says, in hindsight, Gary, I'd be better off buying a boat and landing at Dover, lie about my age, and me no understand English. Very good. Intriguingly, construction differs to professional drivers where the fatigue sets in at the 11th hour. Should anyone really be driving a commercial vehicle for 11 hours? That seems a lot. Do we not have tachos? And I don't mean the ones that you eat. Do we have not tachometers to monitor that kind of thing? 11 hours seems like my limit is about 4. I have in the past. I've driven to Glasgow and back in a day. I've driven to Newcastle and back in a day. Driven to Manchester and back in a day, and every single time I've regretted it. My limit now is, in an ideal world, 3 and a bit hours. I'll happily drive to Birmingham. I'll drive to JCB, but that's kind of my limit. I don't want to be going much further than that. If I'm going further than that, I'll go up the night before, have a rest, or I'll take the train or the bus. Listen, I'm a fully paid up member of the Flicks fan club. I'll happily let somebody else take the train while I'm sat there watching movies on my laptop. More than happy to do that. Just want to say one final thing. 4th hour. If you started work at 7:30 this morning, you're now in your 4th hour. Be careful. Look around you. Is everybody else paying attention? Gary Muirhead says, you drove to Glasgow and never popped in for a cup of tea. Gary, the last time I did that was probably 10 years before you and I ever got to know each other. So I feel okay about that. If I ever do it again, It's unlikely, but if I ever do it again, trust me, I'll phone you in advance and get you to put the kettle on. Peter McKenna says they can only drive max 10 hours twice a week, and the rest is 9 hours, a 45-minute break in between, but they can work 15-hour shifts. What a 45-minute break? That doesn't seem a lot to me. That doesn't seem a lot. I've said this before, and I drove back from Newcastle once. I was really tired. I think I'd been to Berkeley. I think I'd been to Komatsu. And I drove back and got about halfway home, and I thought, no, I can't. I'm a danger to myself, and I'm a danger to others. So I found a service area, and I pulled over mid-afternoon, and I woke up and it was dark out. 45 minutes wouldn't have cut it. I mean, I reckon I was asleep for 4 hours, probably. Literally spark out. Early start and warm weather and stuff. My limit, says Chris Ford, was 3 days when we were agricultural contracting. Wow, 3 days. And sleep deprivation, be aware of that. That's not fun. Average HGV driver does 90 hours a week. Yeah, I see. Is that wise? See, there's a bit of me that looks at that and thinks, fucking hell, fair play to them. 90 hours, that's a lot. I mean, I probably do, let me think, 70, but I'm sat on my arse indoors with cups of tea and coffee at my disposal. I'm not moving, so I'm not a danger to myself or anybody else. And I often finish the day like, I'm so tired. 90 hours. And they're on our roads with us. That shouldn't be a badge of honor. That should be a cause for concern, in my opinion. Just saying. I know nothing about HGV driving, but 90 hours seems like a lot. Too many. People, that will do us, because my 4th hour is fast approaching and I don't want to have an accident. Spill my tea or something like that. So I'm going to love you and leave you. I'm going to go and sit in front of the fan for 20 minutes and cool off. I'll be back tomorrow if we get more of the same. Don't forget, it is our second semi-final in the Mini Excavator World Cup tomorrow, JCB against Komatsu. We decide who goes into the final. We already know that Kubota are there. We need to find out who's going to join them so we can decide the ultimate winner on Friday of this week. Chris Ford says, back to the Magnet and Shear. Sounds like the name of a pub. The Magnet and Shear. Yeah, real ale at the Magnet and Shear. Take a break when driving long distances, guys. We'd rather be talking to you and not about you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that as a sentiment. I've got to be honest, I quite like it when people talk about me. Even when it's bad. I don't have an issue with it. I quite, as you probably gathered from some of the stuff that I write, I don't mind people talking about me. It's what pays the bills. Jim says, summer months I leave the house at 6:30, get home about 10 for tea. It's a long old day, mate. It's a long old day. It really is. But Jim is built of firm stuff. Firm doesn't sound right. He's built of tough stuff. That's the word I was looking for. I have sound and no vision with the wife. Fair enough. Right. Well, on that note, Chris Ford, many happy returns, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on your birthday. I'll be back tomorrow if we get more of the same. Until then, have a good day, everyone. I'll see you then. All the best.